Faceless Charlie, an urban legend unveiled. They say he appears at midnight when the moon hides behind clouds. A tall figure standing motionless at the edge of your vision. Turn to look directly at him, and he's gone. But in your dreams tonight, you'll see what no living person should ever witness. The empty void where his face should be. In the township of Mzansi, children who whisper his name vanish by morning. This is no mere tale to frighten children. This is the truth about Faceless Charlie. Tonight, we unveil the secret that an entire village died to protect. The township of Mzansi sits nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, just 50 kilometers from Cape Town. Like many communities throughout Africa, it balances on the edge between the modern world and traditions older than written memory. Ask any elder in Mzansi about Faceless Charlie, and they'll quickly change the subject or walk away. But the younger generation speaks more freely, at least during daylight hours. My grandfather told me that Charlie was once a respected healer in our village over 100 years ago. His real name was Chilewe, and he could cure any sickness with his herbs and communicate with the ancestors. But he became greedy for power. He made a terrible deal with dark spirits. They say he kidnapped 7 children to perform a ritual that would grant him immortality. But when the ritual went wrong, the spirits took his face as punishment. Now he roams at night, searching for a new face to steal. If you see him in your dreams, he's already chosen you. The legend varies from family to family, but certain elements remain consistent. Faceless Charlie appears first as a tall, slender shadow. He can walk through walls. He never speaks, but those who encounter him describe a terrible emptiness that pulls at their soul. And most importantly, he always returns for those who have seen him. But every legend has its roots in truth, and to find Charlie's truth, we must journey deep into the past of this land. In the colonial archives of Cape Town, buried among reports of mining accidents and political disputes, there exists a curious series of articles from 1898. They detailed the disappearance of 5 children from a small village that once stood where Mzansi exists today. The colonial authorities blamed wild animals or child trafficking, but the local police sergeant, a man named James Thornhill, documented something different in his private journal, which was discovered decades later in his family's attic. The villagers refused to speak to me directly about the missing children. Their headman insists they have moved to relatives in another province. But last night, my translator, Joseph, told me what they truly believe. They speak of a healer named Chilewe who vanished into the forest 3 nights before the children disappeared. They say he has stolen the children to perform some dark ritual and that the spirits have cursed him to walk the earth with no face. In 2019, during construction of a new school workers discovered a mass grave containing the remains of 7 individuals. 5 children and 2 adults. Carbon dating placed the remains at approximately 120 years old. More disturbing was the condition of 1 adult skeleton. The skull showed evidence of an unusual ritual modification. The entire facial bone structure had been carefully removed. Was this the physical remains of the man who would become Faceless Charlie? Science offers no definitive answers, but the oral histories of Mzansi tell a more complete story. For generations, sightings of Faceless Charlie have persisted. In 1937, a British anthropologist named Margaret Hewitt documented several accounts while studying local folklore. I was just a girl when I saw him, standing between the trees at the edge of our maize field. The tall man with no face. My father saw him too and fired his gun, but the bullets passed through like he was made of mist. That night, our entire crop withered and died. The next morning, my younger brother could not wake up. He remained asleep for 7 days and nights, and when he finally opened his eyes, he was never the same again. The accounts continued through the decades. In 1954, 3 children reported seeing a tall man with a hole where his face should be. standing outside their school window. In 1976, during the height of apartheid unrest, multiple witnesses described the faceless figure walking calmly through police barricades during a protest. And then there was the infamous Mzansi blackout of 2008. For 6 nights, the township experienced unexplained power failures. No electrical fault was ever identified. During this time, hospital records show 17 people were admitted with the same symptom: extreme fatigue, nightmares, and temporary facial paralysis. I worked as a nurse during that week. Every patient described the same dream: a tall man standing at the foot of their bed, reaching for their face. We had to restrain some of them because they kept trying to claw at their own faces. They were terrified that they were becoming like him, becoming faceless. Modern psychology might attribute these experiences to mass hysteria or sleep paralysis, but the people of Mzansi know better. They have lived with Charlie for generations, and they have developed their own methods of protection. Look closely at the homes in Mzansi, and you'll notice unusual patterns. Red string tied around door frame, mirrors placed facing outward on window sills, salt in small piles at threshold. These are not mere decorations. They are ancient protections against the faceless one. Charlie cannot enter a home where the ancestors are honored. He cannot cross salt or iron. He fears his own reflection because it reminds him of what he has lost. Most importantly, he cannot take you if you know his true name. But his true name is not Charlie or Those are just what we call him to avoid speaking his actual name. His true name is whispered only once to a child when they turn 12 years old. To speak it aloud at any other time is to summon him. In many homes throughout Mzansi, bedtime rituals include specific prayers and protective gestures. Children are taught never to look directly at windows or mirrors after midnight. If they wake in the night feeling watched, they must recite their family protection verse before opening their eyes. But despite these precautions, Charlie still appears, especially to those who doubt his existence. In 2020, a university student named Thabo Nendeyubu returned to Mzansi after studying abroad for 6 years. Having embraced scientific skepticism, he openly mocked the Faceless Charlie legend at a family gathering. 3 days later, Thabo was found in his apartment, unresponsive but alive. He remained in a catatonic state for 11 days. When he finally regained consciousness, he refused to speak about what happened. He abandoned his studies and moved back to his grandmother's home in Mzansi, where he now maintains the strictest traditional protections. He declined to be interviewed for this documentary, sending only a written statement that read, "Some truths are not meant to be unveiled. Please stop your recording." But we continued our investigation, determined to understand the true nature of Faceless Charlie. After months of research and interviews, I decided to visit Mzansi myself. The elders warned me not to stay after dark. They said outsiders who don't believe are the most vulnerable. But I needed to see for myself to understand why this legend persisted so strongly in an otherwise modern community. I rented a small room in a guest house at the edge of the township. The elderly owner, Mama Nazafo, placed a pouch of herbs under my pillow without explanation. She simply nodded and said, "Just in case." That night, I awoke to the sound of children's laughter. Faint but distinct. The digital clock by my bed read 3:07 a.m. The laughter seemed to be coming from outside, but when I moved to the window, it shifted, now sounding as if it came from the hallway behind me. I opened my door carefully. The hallway was empty, but the children's laughter continued, now seeming to come from downstairs. As I descended the steps, the temperature dropped noticeably. My breath fogged in front of me despite the summer heat. In the main sitting room, the moonlight streamed through windows, casting long shadows across the floor. The laughter had stopped, but something felt wrong. The shadows didn't match the furniture. There was one shadow too many. A tall, slender silhouette standing in the corner. I froze, unable to move or call out. The shadow began to shift, not moving across the floor, but somehow turning, as if to face me directly. Where its face should have been, there was only a deeper darkness, a void that seemed to pull at my vision. And then it spoke. not with words, but directly into my mind. A voice like dry leaves scraping across stone. You seek me, but you do not know me. You wish to unveil what should remain hidden. Look upon me then. If truth is what you desire, the shadow began to move toward me, gliding across the floor. With each step, it became more solid, more real. I wanted to run, to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. The herb pouch Mama Nazefo had given me felt suddenly hot against my chest, where I'd placed it in my shirt pocket. The figure stopped just before reaching me. It was tall, impossibly tall, its head nearly touching the ceiling. It wore what looked like the tattered remains of a healer's ceremonial robes. And where its face should have been, I cannot describe what I saw. Not because I don't want to, but because my mind refuses to hold the image. It was absence and presence simultaneously, a void that contained multitude. In that moment, I understood why the legend spoke of Charlie stealing faces. What I saw was hunger, ancient and patient. The herb pouch burst into flame against my chest, but there was no heat, no burning, just sudden light that filled the room. The figure recoiled, and in that instant, I found I could move again. I ran back to my room and locked the door, though I knew locks would mean nothing to what I had seen. When morning came, I asked Mama Nazefo about the herb she had given me. She studied my face carefully before answering. You saw him, didn't you? And you're still here. Still yourself. The herbs are Impifo and Umlolonkosi, plants that the ancestors respect. Charlie cannot take someone protected by the ancestors. I asked her why she hadn't warned me more explicitly. Her answer chilled me. Would you have believed, or would you have left the pouch behind, thinking it's superstitious nonsense? Charlie feeds on disbelief. It makes the taking easier. I left Mzansi that day, but I know now that distance means nothing. 3 times since my return, I've awakened at exactly 3:07 a.m., feeling watched. Each time, the shadows in my room seem deeper than they should be. Last night, I finally understood what Faceless Charlie truly wants. It isn't just faces he seeks to collect. It's stories. Our stories. Our fear. Our belief. With each telling of his legend, he grows stronger, reaches further. Which means right now, as you listen to this tale, he's becoming aware of you too. Look over your shoulder. Is that shadow the right shape? Does it move as it should? If you wake tonight at 3:07 a.m., remember what Mama Nazefo told me. Charlie feeds on disbelief. So perhaps it's better if you convince yourself this was just a story, nothing more than an urban legend. A faceless monster can't really exist. Can it? Tell yourself that if it helps you sleep tonight, but maybe, just to be safe, don't look too long at empty spaces. And if you feel watched while drifting off to sleep, keep your eyes closed. Don't look to see what might be standing at the foot of your bed. Because once you've seen Faceless Charlie, he never stops seeing you.